This is the Owens Recovery Science Podcast.
All right, welcome back to another Owens Recovery Science Podcast, first of 2024, right? I think it is.
Ooh, yeah, first one.
Yeah, it is. All right. And we brought on a rock star, special guest here, right, which is gonna start the year off right. So totally excited. We'll get into her bio and everything that she's going to share with us here in a second. But I want to check with you, Kyle, because Ben said you were real cranky ass on the course call yesterday. And is it because you hadn't thawed out yet from your two courses last weekend?
I was cold still.
Laura, we sent Kyle to Wisconsin during one of their coldest weekends this last weekend. So
yeah, he was texting me whining about fire.
Oh God, you text her too?
I texted her too. I complained to my people, to you and Ben and Zach, and to Laura and Eric.
Yeah. I keep getting these little weather screenshots, and just a whiny ass dude. The Mr. California can't take it a little bit cold. Was your facial hair all frozen?
Couldn't handle it. Yeah, it would have been if I had to stay out there a little bit longer for sure.
Oh man, you're doing better now though. You're thawed out.
I'm thawed out. I'm warmed up.
You won't have poo-poo lip this entire podcast?
No, I'm excited because Laura's here, so that cheered me up.
I know, man.
Everything's good in the world. Yeah.
Well, let's get into this real quick, because today we're gonna focus on, Kyle, what's the hottest tendon there is right now?
Oh, it's got to be
5 million Instagram followers. The Achilles. The Achilles is the tendon of the moment.
The Taylor Swift of tendons, baby.
It is. That's good. And one of the reasons is a guy that's kind of a lightning rod in the NFL. Has talked a lot about his Achilles and documented some of his recovery, and everyone's saying maybe he didn't even tear it. He got back so fast.
Right.
He's faking it. Maybe it was the ashwagandha. Maybe it was the peyote. Maybe it was the
ashwagandha.
Not having your COVID shot.
You trying to say ayahuasca?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. But ashwagandha is something. It's a thing too, dude.
It is? No. Yeah. That's Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I was just there. It's cold there. That's all it is.
I don't do any of that stuff, man.
Oh my God.
Bourbon, beer, and a multivitamin, and Rogaine. That's about it. Anyways, the Achilles.
Best intro ever.
It is the hot tendon. There's some really new things that go on with it. We're going to talk a lot about Achilles repairs, but if we want to get into tendinopathy, we can certainly do that as well. But the game has changed somewhat with the surgical procedure for this over the last few years, and I think it's good for everyone to be up to date on what's going on here. So our guest, who sees a lot of these, who is sports medicine certified, who is orthopedic certified. She has level 2 coaching certs in USA weightlifting. She lives in Bozeman, Montana, Bose Angeles, Kyle. Do you know what they call you Californians out there?
What do they call
Bunny huggers.
Bunny huggers?
Dude. Yeah.
Is that
you
true?
guys have invaded Bozeman. Yeah. I looked up what are the two most popular terms for Californians that have invaded Bose Angeles, and it is bunny huggers and prune pickers. So from now on, you are Kyle Prune Picker. I don't even know what prune picker means, but it's the number 2
it
thing.
Sounds like you're constipated.
Is that what? It's all the fiber y'all eat.
Dude, you can't even pick up. Is a prune thing you can pick? Isn't a prune like
no? Yeah, it's not. That's why I don't get it at all. I don't think you can pick a prune. I don't know.
Pick a prune.
My grandmother would make me eat prunes because she always thought I was constipated. I'm fine. I'm reading Mad Magazine in the bathroom. That's why I'm in here so long.
That's just my resting place.
I'm a teenager. Anyways, sorry, Laura. I'm going to get back to this. So we have the one and only Laura Opstedal on our podcast today. If you're on the socials, you know of Laura's work. If you're at CSM, you know Laura. She is a rock star in the sports medicine community. She has a thriving practice out there in Bozeman, Montana, which I think I would love to hear kind of how she is, how she kind of came to that practice and some pearls on that. She has a new thing out there I heard of from Kyle that they built out as well, that which she can get into. But that's what I think I think you're alluding to, but she definitely knows Achilles. So, Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what's the weather like up there right now, for Kyle's sake?
Well, when Kyle texted me that it was 5 degrees, I had to roll my eyes because we just got done with about a week of -30.
Kyle, you're such a little bitch, man. I mean, come on.
It was
She's negative 30.
awful.
Laura she said, talk to me when it's -30. And I said, Laura, I just told you I can't move. It's too cold already.
Well, we got into 30s and they close schools down here. And that's not -30. That's like regular 30.
Yeah, they don't, with schools closing here, it has everything to do with if the buses run in the morning. So like if they can't start the buses and they cancel school, and living here 12 years now, 11, 12 years, that has maybe happened 3 times. But this isn't unusual.
Wow.
We get like a week that's like -20, -30. But my pipes froze at my clinic. It was
Yeah, I was to say your
flustered.
pipes have to freeze at that temperature.
Well, normally they bury them pretty deep, so that shouldn't happen. But I think the contractor maybe was from California or something and didn't totally can't, didn't bury him deep enough.
Freaking prune prickers.
Because if you go too
Pickers.
deep, it causes an earthquake. Y'all, I mean, that's how it works. Oh God.
I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, working with the Cornhuskers a long time ago in the middle of freaking winter. And I was driving, I had a rental to the airport and I had to pull over because I couldn't handle the ice and the snow and everything. And a school bus passed me by.
Oh my
Like with
word.
kids on it.
Yep.
Wow. Yep.
Kids are hardy here.
That's what I was terrified of, was driving when I went to Wisconsin, because I was like, man, the snow, and if it's on the roads, it's so scary.
Yeah. And you did 2 courses.
And I did 2 classes. I did a lot of driving actually. But it was okay. They do a great, it's really, to me, I found it fascinating that they're able to get their roads so drivable so quickly. It was pretty impressive, because if they had that kind of snow down here,
Yeah,
it would
they got
be
the equipment for it.
ridiculous. It'd be out of control. So,
well, enough about the weather. We're like old people right now talking.
Seriously.
But Laura, so tell us a little bit about yourself, your early career, why you started, I guess, in Washington, Tacoma area, right? And then you went to the coolest place there is right now in America. But give us a little background.
Yeah, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, and I didn't get too far for college. I stayed at University of Puget Sound and graduated in 2001. So guess I'm on the later end of my career at this point, but I've always worked in sports rehab. Started out at a great sports clinic in Tacoma and Gig Harbor with one of my mentors. And about 10 years later, we kind of decided we wanted to change of pace and move to Bozeman so we could enjoy the recreation, ski, and get away from traffic. And, little did we know COVID would, add to our traffic issues here in Bozeman, at least what we think is traffic issues. But no regrets. I love living in Montana. It's awesome. It's beautiful. And the population here is really active. So lots of ACL reconstructions, of course, with skiing and stuff like that. So patient population is definitely amazing here. And I worked at a physician-owned clinic for a long time, probably about the first 7 years I lived here. So got a ton of experience working alongside surgeons. And then about 5 years ago, actually 5 years ago to the month, I opened my own practice. And that wasn't super intentional, especially this late in my career. It was just kind of like I had the patient population and following here in Bozeman. I just needed the actual physical space. So that's kind of how that came to be.
Was that a scary leap?
Not really, to be honest. I think it's because, I'm married, and so we have another source of income. with
Mhm.
my husband and stuff. So financially, it was, I mean, of course, it's scary, but I really felt like the people were in place. I just needed the physical location. And so, like, the first month or the first week, actually, I think I had 17 patients already, and then got busy
Awesome.
enough 3 months later to bring on a PT assistant who is also an athletic trainer. But her and I worked together for years when she was at Montana State University. So things happen pretty quickly, and then of course COVID.
Yeah.
Uh, and I thought I was going to lose everything during that time.
Us too.
I was,
Yeah.
I was like, well,
We had a good run.
yeah, it was good. It was a good 2 years.
Yeah.
1 year. No, I had been open for 1 year when that happened. Um, so no regrets. I decided to expand recently a couple months ago and add a gym. So we have a pretty sweet 24-hour access gym attached. So we blew a hole through the wall in our waiting area that goes into the gym. And then there's another door that people can access anytime they want. But it's really geared towards barbell athletes and
Yeah.
the space we needed PT wise. So now we've doubled our space. So we have about 6,000 square feet in total.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw a picture of the gym. It's dope. You
Yeah.
rack that thing out with some nice stuff, man.
I like to spend money, and that's probably a problem. I like nice stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
I wish my wife was like, I like to spend money on rogue racks and barbell
right.
equipment.
Oh, yeah. I'm married to somebody who likes to spend money on cars. So
Uh,
that is, that's a whole nother conversation.
nice. Well, congrats, man. That's awesome. And so obviously, I guess going back, you see this all the time, and we teach all over the country, and you see a lot of people so burned out with PT right now. Sometimes it's pretty sad, but I think it's pretty awesome to have had a career for a while before you branch out on your own, and you've built all those relationships and your management style and all that sort of stuff. So I think, yeah, you see people like right out of school, I'm gonna just start a little private practice thing or a cash practice thing or whatever. But man, get some skins on the wall first, I think.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I don't think I would have been very successful if I did this any earlier because I feel like I mean, I'm always getting better as a clinician, but after, 15 years, you kind of have the reps in, right? And so you can focus on more of the business part of things. And I think it would be really hard to try to be a good business owner and, build up your abilities as a clinician and get the reps in. I mean, I personally think it's really hard to do both well. And so what usually suffers for me is the business part of things. I don't
Yes.
really like to market, but I also think if you do a good job as a clinician, your patients do the marketing for you.
Yep.
So I think
100%.
I just keep telling myself that.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. We haven't
There's
we
a lot
haven't
of
had a
truth to that.
salesperson. We're going to be hitting 10 years here soon. We haven't had a salesperson this entire time. It's just
Really?
100% word. Yeah, all word of mouth. We don't really do any. I mean, you see our social. No offense, Kyle, but we don't have hardly
Yeah.
much
I'm
there.
the social media guy.
Yeah.
I do all
So,
the design
Social
stuff.
media is
So
so weird too. Like I was really surprised at how many referrals we get, like as recommendations from people in other states, like where they have
well,
the patient. I would have never guessed that in 1,000 years, how many referrals we get from like some PT knows me from social media and recommends our clinic. It's
yeah, that's
like
cool.
such a huge compliment.
Well, forever before we knew Bozeman was a thing, I mean, years ago, it was like, why is everyone looking for a PT that does BFR in Bozeman? Remember that, Kyle? It's
yep.
always like, because someone will send a text. Who do we know in Bozeman, Montana? I'm like, another one? Like, what is going on in Bozeman, Montana? I should have freaking started buying real estate right then
Yeah.
there. But
Oh,
yeah,
100%. It's so expensive here now. It's
yeah.
travesty.
It's pretty
Well,
much
now,
like California where I live.
yeah.
Similar, I think. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now when we get those texts, we say, Laura, go to Laura, go to
Yeah.
Laura.
Laura.
Speaking of that, fill us in a little bit then. We know ACLs obviously and sports, ski injuries, grizzly bear injuries, whatever you guys have up there. But your kind of background with Achilles. Let's get into what's going on with Achilles, how Achilles, let's just talk about repairs. And I don't think we have to go through the etiology of what happens when you tear an Achilles. It's old people like me who try and play a sport and they pop it, or it's an athlete, eccentric load, yada yada, you pop your Achilles. There was an old way it was repaired. It was kind of the classic way forever. And now we've got this new technique, which has really been a game changer. So you want to go into that a little bit, Laura?
Yeah, so when I moved here, like I mentioned before, I worked in a surgeon-owned practice. And so for about a year and a half when I was there, I worked directly with a foot and ankle surgeon. He didn't have a PA, and so I worked in the office with him. We needed like twice a week and took sutures out, boots off, referred to PT, all of that stuff. And I was just really shocked at how many Achilles repairs we were actually doing in a town this size, because I didn't see a whole lot of them before. And I really came to love them because they're challenging in a number of different ways. But when I was there, I probably had like 8 or 9 patients at a time with Achilles repairs. And initially, we were doing like the direct, like the Krakow stitching. I think they call it the direct repair to the tendon. And about 10 years ago, he started using speed bridge with Achilles repairs, because one of the surgeries that's done for insertional Achilles tendinopathy is where they take the tendon off the calcaneus, clean it, and
Raglan
then reattach
deformity.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And augment it with the flexor hallucis longus, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And these patients were usually older. They had the chronic insertional tendinopathy, but they would just crush their rehab.
Yeah.
So it always led to the conversation, like, why these guys are actually like push them harder than we can, our athletes with the Achilles repair. And so this particular surgeon decided to start doing that with the repairs. And we didn't really have a protocol per se for the idea how much harder you can push them. It was all kind of trial and error. And that's really the beauty of when you have a PT and a surgeon pair up, and have these ongoing conversations, like how hard could we push these things? What can we change in the protocol? And we changed a ton over the course of several months after seeing these. I always wonder, like, what's the pull out force, of a speed bridge? Like, how far can I actually push this? And I remember asking in the clinic one day, and he's like, I don't know, you should try it. He was like, I'm not going to do that. But, we worked together for a while and kind of, came up with this protocol. And I still try to change it a little bit, because I do think we're still probably underloading the Achilles repair. It's just nobody wants to be the person that just F's it up.
Yeah.
Like, whoop, that was too far.
So,
yeah. So like the speed bridges, I don't think is necessary. I guess 10 years would be considered new, sort of.
Well, that's what's interesting. I think that's an important point. Like after, Aaron Rodgers' surgery, I had all these media people start calling me because, they were talking about he was going to be starting BFR real quick with it, which, he did. But they're like, this new technique, the speed bridge that, Dr. Elatrosh did. It's like almost like he just invented this thing yesterday. And it's like, well, this is like a decade old thing now. Arthrex has had this thing out forever. So I think it's kind of new, but not really. But obviously, it's in the spotlight now. And I guess just to kind of highlight details here, when you're talking about how hard could you push it or pull it out. So the old way, the kind of line from the surgeons was it was tying two mop ends together. So you're trying to do a direct repair with this Krakow stitch. So you're just using stitches to suture the two tendon pieces together. And I'm older than you are, Laura, here with this. I graduated in the 90s, but back in the day, it was like, okay, they all get pretty much stretched out, it seems like. You know, you almost never saw this like perfect kind of anatomical positioning, and you're going to see atrophy, some severe atrophy years later. You know, you just looked at any of these individuals that had these Achilles repairs that way. They just never got their power back. They had atrophy because the tendon would just stretch out over time. And the atrophy was huge because, I mean, we were talking months where you were oftentimes in the early days non-weight bearing, and finally we got to start weight bearing them. And then you could not do any sort of plantar flexion. You know, if I did with the Foot and Ankle Society with Dracos, the HSS foot and ankle guys. You know, and basically their protocol was that first 6-8 weeks they just go home and do nothing because they didn't want them to touch it. So imagine what that does to the calf. So now the Speed Bridge, they do the repair. So they run sutures, and they're not knotted, but they run sutures using this little Arthrex device. Arthrex is one of the biggest orthopedic medical device companies. At the proximal, so above the tear, and then they drill 2 holes into the calcaneus, and they will pull those sutures, which are above, so they're not at the repair, they're above it, and anchor them into the bone. So now you have a bony fixation, which is much, much stronger. And like I said, the tensile force that it can handle would be how hard can you pull on those anchors and how hard could you pull on those sutures that are in the anchor. So it would be a lot of force to be able to do that. But then once you put it in that anchor, you just basically pull the 2 ends together. I don't know if your folks use it. A lot of times they will shoot an orthobiologic in there as well to try and augment healing. And you get this kind of direct repair without it being a direct repair. And all the force is going directly through the calcaneus and that proximal portion of the Achilles. Game changer.
Crazy.
Right? Right.
Makes
and
sense.
Now we're able to, I think one of the biggest things is begin plantar flexion like quick. You know, I pulled up the Arthrex protocol, and I think we're pushing this a little bit earlier than even this, but at week 2 is when you can start plantar flexion, progressive plantar flexion resistance with a Speed Bridge, compared to 6 to 8 weeks before in a cast, right? So game changer. So can you give us some of your, like, when you guys with the Speed Bridge will start weight bearing, when they actually would start doing some plantar flexion stuff, when they get out of their boot at your place?
So they're non-weight bearing the first 2 weeks. They're just in a post-op splint or whatever. So they're starting PT at 2 weeks, and at that point their weight bearing is tolerated, but they're on crutches because they've got a big heel lift wedge inside the boot to keep them in a little bit of plantar flexion to prevent any kind of over lengthening of the tendon early on. And then we remove layer by layer until they're in neutral in their boot at 4 weeks. I tend to keep a layer in there a little.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because it's always this, like, I've warned the patient, you're gonna go in and he's gonna want you to take the heel lift out, but just leave it in.
Yeah,
because I want him a little bit tighter, right? So
that's all. I mean, with my interns, I would always tell my interns, I would rather have a tight Achilles than a lengthened Achilles. Yes. So let's leave those lifts in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we get them at 2 weeks and we start immediate isometrics. So what I'll do is, and I like to monitor him, and I'm not so sure you even really need to monitor it, because, like, I don't think you can produce enough force in your calf at that point to do
not at that point
repair.
Yeah.
Right. No. So, like, do you need to set a ceiling to them and say, okay, I'm not going to have you push harder than 50 pounds or whatever? I don't think you need to do that. Because in my experience, if they can do, because we'll have them sit on force plates, do like seated isometrics, and they're still, I'll put them on their wedge. So we're doing it in a little bit of plantar flexion and just work on loading the tendon. And I'll give them like a target or like a ceiling they can't go past. And most people, they tap out at like 40 pounds of force, probably. Yeah. If you think about, like, and I have had people re-rupture before. I've had 2 in my career, and it's probably the most horrifying thing ever. But I had one guy, and I can't remember if he was speed bridge or not. I kind of think he wasn't. But when those go bad, it's usually because they like overstressed it. So like they're in the boot and they step on a stair and they don't have the full boot on the
they had an
stair,
eccentric.
that
Yeah.
lever. Both times that's how it happened. So I don't think it's like producing force through your calf. I think it's just that overstretch that can
Yeah.
happen.
Eccentric load. Yeah.
Mhm.
Into stretch. Yeah.
Yep. So, and that particular guy, I'm getting off track here, but that that
No, it's
particular,
good.
because I have PTSD from it. The week before, suddenly had a lot more dorsiflexion. Like that is a big red flag. He came in, and I always test the tension of the repair.
Mhm.
Just put them in subtalar neutral and kind of dorsiflex their foot and see where I'm feeling tension.
You do that
And
you have them like prone and check
yep,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's what
it's
we
just
did
kind of
too.
my little like beginning assessment. Let's
Yeah.
do this a little bit. And I think he had like suddenly 5 or 10 degrees more. Like you get so used to feeling these things over time. It's like, ugh, that is not. And what can
Mm.
you do at that point, right? And this guy was like not behaving.
Yeah.
Let's just say that he was not behaving, and I just had this gut feeling this thing's gonna go. And sure enough, like the next week, he stepped on the first stair of his like front porch or something like that, and just I was like, oh my god,
Ugh.
you always feel responsible, right? I know it wasn't my fault, but it's still my patient, and awful. Anyway, I got off track. So,
Well, we're
so
opposite there. I always blame the patient for everything.
my toxic trait. But yeah, so with the isometrics, I don't think they're not gonna like sit there and push too hard with their forefoot and have the whole thing explode. So you
Yeah.
just like with anything, progressively load them, document how much they're able to do, and just increase that week by week. But
You start
what's
them on the force plate, seated, bent knee, and straight knee. Do you go at both? Bent
yep,
knee. Okay.
just seated, see what you can put out. We'll do like a 5-second hold, 6-second rest, quite a few reps. And that's what they'll do at home. So sometimes I'll have them do it on a scale so they know exactly how much pressure they're putting on. But like, to be honest, I don't think that's necessarily something you really need to monitor. I just don't think they have the force output to pull the speed bridge out.
Yeah.
So what's nice is there's a paper that came out a few years ago, Josh Baxter, and he looked at Achilles tendon loads with different tasks. It's great. So you can kind of follow through that. Now they're looking at healthy tendon, not repaired tendon. So you kind of have to have your like mental conversion factor in there, but it gives you an idea, like if walking is what 4 times your body weight force through your Achilles tendon, what are all the things that you can do that's not that? Because like if you take a person out of the boot at 6 weeks, so they're in a boot for 6 weeks, we take them out of the boot and they're walking, but they've got 4 times their body weight going through the tendon, right? So they should be able to do all the other things listed, in this paper that's not equal to walking. That makes any sense. And that's including, I mean, we start double calf raises at 6 weeks. If we did that back in the day, oh my God.
You would get shot. The surgeon would,
freak out. And
yeah.
it goes well. So yeah, it's six weeks they're doing double calf raises.
And I think that's an important point to give your patients as well, because I've had enough I've broken my tibia and my fibula, so I've been in a cam boot and it just sucks. And there's times where you're like, oh, fuck it. I don't really need this boot right now to go to the bathroom. But the role of the Achilles when you walk is to lengthen and give power. The gastrocsoleus complex actually just goes into isometry, and it kind of just gives a base for the tendon to work off of in the calcaneus. So you're putting all of that load basically through that Achilles, and making sure the patients understand that, week 2, if you're just kind of walking around to the bathroom, even if you're flat footing it, you might be stretching this bad boy out.
Yep. so we're pretty, keep the boot on and all that stuff. But I pulled out this paper and just to make a point, you know, I would encourage everybody to just kind of look at this. So
We'll put it
things
in our
like
show notes.
low step up, standing heel raises, high step up with the lead leg, lunges, all of those things are lower forces through the tendon than walking. So you could take this paper and say, these are all of the exercises we're going to do, because as long as the person's walking, I know that's what the forces are going through the tendon. They should be able to handle all of these other things, which there's a whole long list of it. So that makes it, I'm not sure what year that came out. It wasn't super long ago. And then, let's see.
You know how Josh measured that? Was that with like an indwelling kind of tensionometer in the Achilles, or?
I have no idea. I
Yeah.
need to read that. I see the good stuff and I ignore the rest, but
Yeah.
I know that paper's been cited a lot. And then
Yeah.
Whiteley out in Aspetar.
Yep.
He and I think it's DiMangio. I'm gonna botch this last name so bad.
They're all Greek.
Did that systematic review and kind of like republished all of those things. But I think it's just a nice little guide to show us, like, don't be so scared of it. Like, you got to respect the healing process, obviously, but I think we end up tiptoeing around it, and then these people get just super atrophied, and you're not loading the tendon, and then you get to later stages, like very time based. Oh, it's 12 weeks, we're going to start jumping, but they haven't done shit for that. Like, that's what get you into trouble.
They have a tibia for a calf muscle, basically, and you're like, cool, let's run now.
Yeah.
I think that it's an important point to make. Laura and I had this conversation a while back, but I think sometimes we hear 4 times weight bearing, and we kind of don't really like put it in a context a little bit to like what we are doing in the clinic with resistance exercise. So, like, for example, when we talk, say, tendon rehab or excuse me, tendinopathy rehab, we start saying heavy loads, and we're associating that with an 85% of somebody's 1 repetition maximum. And that was kind of the discussion around BFR in some ways, is like, well, how could BFR be good for the tendon? It's only a 30% load or a 20% load. But when you put that in the context of what the Achilles has the capacity to sustain, 85% of 1 rep max is a lot closer to a 30% than it is to 4 times body weight, so a heavy load in context is not really all that heavy, and so I think, that in some ways, if you think about it like that, it might help you kind of go, all right, well, man, I can really load this person really pretty heavy pretty soon if I know that they can take 4 times body weight just walking,
Yep.
Bruh, my 80% 1RM on my calf is like 900 pounds, bro. So I don't know what your point is.
So you do have to say, okay, like, this is also a healing repaired tendon, just to take it with a grain of salt. They're looking at healthy tendons. I'll reiterate that again, just so I don't get like, you said that I could be doing this stuff. But like, you do have to take that into consideration, obviously.
Well, we have a disclaimer on this podcast just for these problems.
You gotta test the waters.
I don't know the pullout strength. I still don't know the pullout strength of that speed bridge. No one can say that. But so like with Achilles repairs, they're just so fun to rehab, because it's like a challenge. Like, how hard can I push this person? How close can I get to the sun without being burnt? And get them back earlier. So like this stuff with Aaron Rodgers comes out, and I was just like, none of that's weird to me.
Yeah.
We're losing their shit on Twitter. Like, this guy, oh my God, he's throwing a football. He's throwing.
Yeah.
He's throwing like super early.
I think those in the know,
Interesting.
that was really the thing. And people were reaching out to me, and it's like, I mean, this is pretty cool. And some of it was a little bit exaggerated of what he maybe was already doing, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. I mean, look at Cam Akers, from the
Right.
Rams. He basically went through the exact same thing, same surgeon, same repair, pretty much the same rehab. He was out there at Heather's place in LA, and then with Reggie and those guys at the Rams, started BFR really early, progressed it through, followed all the pretty much same things you're talking about, Laura, from what I understand. Dude's in the Super Bowl in 5 months, like runs for like 120, 120 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's where the paradigm has shifted, where 3, 4, 5 months and you're getting back to decent activity isn't going to be unheard of now with this.
No, not at all. Like back in the day when I were
Yeah.
new grads, late 90s, early 2000s. Heck no, like your career's over when
Yep. Yep.
you do that. Now,
Well,
I just don't think the protocols have really kept up with where we're at,
no.
like injury wise. And so when people see
And
things like that, they're like, oh my God, he's gonna re-tear it. I think it just ends up being more like the deficits are more performance related than anything. Like the re-tear rates of Achilles at a year, I think is less than 3%. Like it's really unlikely you're gonna re-tear it at that point. You'll probably tear the other side. It's just more like performance. Do you have that capacity back? Things.
well, and that's, I think, a great point. And people, I think when you are dealing with a torn tendon, and if you don't really kind of understand the physiology and the healing of it, people get so, because everyone at the start is like, oh my God, if they do anything, you're screwed. You better not do anything but pendulums with that rotator cuff. So you're like, oh my God, okay, this thing is so fragile. At 12 weeks, that dude
Like wet
is
tissue
like,
paper.
yeah, that at 12 weeks, that thing is like solid, and it's probably even more robust because it's so full of scar now. You see it, the tendon's like hypertrophic in these
Oh
people.
yeah, it's super
The
fat.
tendon's almost bigger than their damn calf. So
Yeah.
the tendon's fine. You're all good. Your job at this point was I able to keep the muscle on,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, and then get to that third month, and now it's rock and roll, because the Arthrex protocol at week 12, start eccentric loading, move into power and sports training. They know. I mean, at 3 months, you're good to go. So nothing's crazy. If you've got the muscle at that point, you're good. Our problem would be these people, they would be stretched and they would probably be perfectly healed, but they didn't have the muscle. And so you're like another 6 months just trying to recover all of that atrophy. Um, and then it's impossible to get your power back in a calf with a stretched Achilles. So that thing was never going to come back. So I think that paradigm shift's totally different. And there was a paper, Brett Owens, who's one of our former military surgeons. He's out now in civilian practice, but they looked at factors of return to play in the NFL after Achilles tendon. And so this would be old data, 2009 to 2014, and only 61% of Achilles repairs return to play in the NFL. So that kind of shows you how poor and that was on average 12 months post-op that those people would actually get back to return to play. So how the paradigm shift is, where you got a running back in the Super Bowl, you got Aaron's already out there throwing and practicing, basically under 3 months, it looks like. Totally different paradigm.
If the old protocols were, I think some of the older ones pre-speed bridge allowed running at 12 weeks. Well, that's like 7 times your body weight through the Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing between 6 weeks and 12 weeks to get somebody to, like if
Right.
you made that like a spectrum or whatever in between there, we're getting nowhere near that probably in our rehab.
No.
So
Yeah, because you're doing like TheraBand the first 6 to 8 weeks, so you're just losing weeks of like no actual strengthening on this thing. So you might get maybe,
run.
yeah, you might get 3 to 4 weeks and let's run with that no calf type of thing.
I hadn't used BFR before until like since I opened my practice 5 years ago, I've only had a handful of Achilles repair patients because I'm not at the physician practice anymore. But I had somebody recently and I reached out to Kyle. I'm like, okay, I want to do some BFR with this person because she's a really high level CrossFit athlete. And so that was like my first experience using BFR with an Achilles repair. Use it a lot with ACLs and other stuff, just hadn't with Achilles repair. And I don't know if it was that or
Oh, it was that.
else, but I was looking at her because I'll do force testing every month. I was looking at that data the other day because I thought you were probably going to ask me that. But at 12 weeks, her affected side, she was able to produce 1.2 times her body weight with an isometric test, and on her left, 1.67. So at 12 weeks, she was already 73% symmetric.
Close,
so like the goal would be to produce force equal to twice your body weight. From you would measure that at the ball of your foot. But I was a little surprised that she was already at 73%. So it's like, was it the BFR? Was it because I was like completely type A about her rehab and measuring every little thing? Did I really?
She's a really good athlete.
Like genetics, motivation, all the other things. And then at 16 weeks, she was already 81%.
Nice.
So like for somebody to say, okay, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to return at 4 months. That was the goal. I still think that's pretty reasonable.
100%.
On, like the position, like a quarterback is probably hopefully has a good O-line, but
yes.
Well, and it's his front leg, so he's not sitting there kind of putting that eccentric load over and over on the back leg. So he had even a little bit better opportunity.
That's the thing too, is with positions. If it was another position, who knows if that's realistic? Would they have their power at that point? Certainly capacity, but maybe not the power. So again, we start talking about like just performance deficits for a bit in there. But at what point is it good enough to withstand like re-tearing it again?
Yeah. Or like you said, the contralateral.
Mm-hmm. And Laura, I know if you would speak maybe to really trying to restore strength or force, kind of in that fully plantar flex position, because I know you kind of spend a little bit extra, maybe focus on that and maybe share how you're going about that, what your thought process is there, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the two adverse or things you're trying to prevent with this whole thing is over lengthening of the tendon. That's a really poor outcome for a lot of different reasons, but because of that, you lose a lot of your end range strength. So depending on the sport the person does, could be like really bad for some, and some may not notice. But you don't want to over lengthen the tendon, and a lot of these guys have lost strength at end range. And so my thought process is that's where we're going to work. Like you want to work mid range, right? Because you're going to be the strongest there. So if you're just trying to build up strength, you're going to hang out mid range, but you're also going to want to do some things in end range. And that would be like, I'll have people do calf raises on a decline and just try to get them up on that last little bit. And so we'll do, because that range of motion is so small and restricted, and you taught me is throw some BFR on there and use their body weight with the BFR and just kind of target that end range stuff off the decline.
Even posterior tibialis as well, working on that. It kind of helps that last little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then when we do our force testing, we also look at like a 1 rep heel raise height and measure that over time. And you would obviously want that to be symmetric. I think this person ended up being, look at this, maybe I think she was like a centimeter different side to side, and I was like stoked with that.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Circumference.
Can you get what is so cool that you're doing, and what helps is you're testing constantly. So can you go over your kind of battery of test? Are you just doing force play? And can you kind of go in what your protocol is, how you would do force play testing? Are you doing dynamometry, or any other tests?
So I have an isokinetic dynamometer. So I could do like an isokinetic test for the plantar flexors. It's a little goofy
It
just because
is.
I'm having a hard time keeping the heel locked in.
Yeah.
And so like after a lot of different iterations, we finally came up with just using the force plates and looking at force output isometrically. So they're in like um, I think the study by Seth O'Neill was in max dorsiflexion, and the normative data would be twice your body weight. So force production equal to twice your body weight in max dorsiflexion. I don't want to force test somebody there because they're lengthened, and this is Achilles repair. So we'll do
Mhm.
it in like probably 5 degrees of dorsiflexion, neutral to 5 degrees. And then I have their legs kind of, so they're seated, kind of hard to explain how this would look. And their legs are strapped down with ratchet straps. So they're locked in and they can't plant, like they can't lift their heel. And we use the force plates just to measure the force output. So we do that every month. And then I'll do like a single leg calf rise test. So they're doing how many calf raises they can do on single leg and maintain height. So that part's important. Once they start dropping their heel, I'm not going to count that rep.
How do you measure that?
um like visually. Like
Visually?
I
Yeah, that's what I was
yeah,
wondering.
I
I didn't
lay
know
on
if
the
you had something
floor.
fan. We would use a yardstick and just put it
Yeah.
there. So,
So
okay.
I have like a tape measure when we do a 1 rep thing where I'm looking at how high their heel comes up. That's another test. I just want to see like how much end range, how how high the heel comes up. And then so I eyeball it, and then we do like 1 rep every 2 seconds and see how many they can do side to side. And
Nice.
then we'll do I'll just measure circumference. I think Kyle will tell you that was driving me nuts because I think we ended up at 1.5 centimeter circumference difference, and that was driving me freaking nuts. Like it
Get
didn't
it
bother the
back.
patient at
It's
all,
come
but
back.
I was like, I need this to be symmetric. And I don't know how realistic that actually is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The muscle
those
changes after this. And
yeah, and then we'll start doing some jump stuff on the force plates, like a counter movement jump and single leg vertical, maybe a horizontal hop because that's a little more ankle dominant, but the functional test. But what I'm really most interested is the force output.
yes. Aren't force plates badass? I'm so jealous that the majority of
Uh,
my career, we didn't have just the ease of, we had a biomechanics lab and they'd be like, yeah, we can maybe see this person in 8 weeks type of thing. But force plates are badass.
yeah, it's a love hate, to be perfectly honest, because the learning curve, and I'm a slow learner. The learning curve was pretty steep, and I've had them long enough where I think now there's so many great courses you can take to get kind of the clip notes on them. But initially, I was like just on my own trying to figure them out and relearn physics and figure
Yeah.
out what metrics are meaningful to me and what aren't, and what things depend on other things, because it's like you can't just look at one thing. You got to look at all the factors that create differences in jump height. It could be velocity, it could be impulse, it could be you know counter movement depth, all of those things. And
We
then
have
when you
there's a paper that I was editor on a few years back. It gets cited a ton. It was how new technology is improving physical therapy. And there was a really big force plate section in it that I think it was done by the Olympic folks up in Boulder of
oh
kind of
nice.
what's good to measure and what their tests are and things like that. So if anyone's interested, I think it's open access.
Yeah, and I think like just data collection in general, it sounds so obvious. Why wouldn't you collect data? But we just historically haven't as a profession.
Yeah.
And I totally do now, and I think that's made me such a better PT.
It makes you look bad if you collect data. So I mean,
Yeah, there's that there's that
Keeps you
standpoint.
honest.
Like,
Yeah.
those patient reported outcome measures, I hate those.
It's the ultimate transparency, right?
Yeah.
Like I tell
Yeah.
patients, if you don't improve this month, like where did I F up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like not the patient's issue. Sometimes it might be part of it, but what am I not doing? What am I missing? Because you should see something change every
Our
4 to
chief of sports medicine at our base, his line was, nothing ruins a perfect surgery like follow-up. They walk out, they're like, that was the best surgery ever. Oh, wait, you're not doing good.
Laura, I got a question. And this is just a curiosity. Maybe um asking you something that you don't have an answer for, so it's fine if you say I got no clue, Kyle. But I was just thinking with Achilles rehab, and then kind of thinking ACL rehab, and we have the work from Sue Sigward and Matt Chan out here at USC where they've put the little things in their shoes and they can see that that patients adopt different movement strategies based upon the fact that they had an ACL reconstruction, and even just like to the trained eye, you can watch them move, and they look like they're moving normally, but the little foot plate is kind of picking up that they're not, that they're basically shielding the quad, if you will. So I'm just kind of curious if, like with Achilles rehab and using the force plates, have you like been observing, kind of picking up on some of that? Because I have a hard time believing it's just ACL that does that.
Actually not on the force plates because I was looking at this particular person's force plate data and she really she didn't have her most asymmetry was like a repeated hop test where you start looking at like a fast stretch shortening cycle, so more like that tendon stiffness, and that's not unusual. Um, that would be something you'd see. But now that you're bringing that up, do you remember me telling you like this person after we started jumping, she got a stress reaction in her
Yep.
fourth and fifth tarsal, and I had to like abort the mission for a little bit for a bit. And in talking to her, she's like, I don't think it was the jumping. I just feel like I've been walking on the outside of my foot forever. And you couldn't really see it in her gait, but she is an athlete. And so she felt this over a long period of time. So I think to answer your question, yes, I think people will load their foot differently, like maybe go out on the lateral part of the foot. It's not something that I could see on the force plate, but because that happened, and that was the first time that's ever happened, and it just makes me wonder that.
Yeah, and it makes you kind of wonder if something maybe could be on the horizon for us in terms of just kind of like a more of a constant monitoring type thing. So we get some data on people moving just normally, like how they instead of what we kind of test in a controlled environment. I mean, the controlled tests I think are enormously valuable, but they're also controlled, and how people are kind of selecting to move could really have some value as well. So
I think it's one of those surgeries too that people have so much like memory of how awful that was when it has happened. So like almost some PTSD from it. And so they get a little, this is where the reassurance comes in, right? They get a little like that first time you let them jump or that first time you let them run, there's just this look of fear on their face. Like, are you kidding me? So like that makes me think, yeah, of course you would try to avoid loading your calf as much as you can because that's scary to the person. Like I knew this patient had the capacity to start jumping, right? Because I measured it. But there was something that she was doing to avoid it that probably overloaded the lateral part of her foot. So we ended up with those stress reactions. I almost forgot all about that until I was going through her
Sorry.
stuff.
Thanks, Kyle. Asshole.
No, my bad. I'm curious.
Well, at least she didn't pop her tendon like your other one.
Yeah, I know. Oh man. That makes me curious then. Do you think that maybe in the future you'll provide just some direction to people in terms of, because I know like Eric has kind of conjectured, maybe we really should kind of avoid having people after ACL reconstruction do like a squat or like almost like a closed kinetic chain type movement, because we know that they're going to shield the quad when they do that. And so his thought being, let me remove any opportunity for this person to develop this alternate strategy, because they're going to have plenty of opportunity to be doing this like on their own. Why should I feed that system, if you will? So I wonder if you had maybe thoughts on like, maybe there's some direction that you could give people to like, hey, when you're walking, just kind of be mindful of this and try to maybe emphasize this or something like that.
I think it's just different because we're talking like an Achilles tendon. Like you do want to put
Mm-hmm.
load through it. So I wouldn't have them avoid that versus like the ACL where it wasn't the quad that was repaired. It's just dysfunctional and inhibited and all that stuff. So I think it's kind of like two different things. Um, but you're also asking somebody to have normal mechanics after they've been non-weight bearing for 2 weeks, and then they're in like a wedge in their boot, and then they're in a boot, and then they're walking, and you haven't let them stretch, because I don't let them stretch the Achilles. So things are not going to look normal for a while just because of those things. And
Right.
I think if I change anything, maybe I need to work more on gait training, like roll through the part of your foot, but I just
Yeah.
don't. I kind of let them sort it out over time, because that tendon's going to just lengthen with the loads they're putting through it on a daily basis naturally without actually having to stretch it. But I could maybe spend some time gait training. I probably won't. Just let them figure it out, because I wouldn't expect it to look super normal for a while,
Yeah.
just based on all the reasons I just said.
Fair.
Oh, we had the like off the shelf ideas that we actually would use on some of these in the
Really?
early stages. I don't know if you know what that is, Laura. It's like this device that we built for trauma. It gave you Achilles power, but it was basically this long lever, and if you would roll
Yeah.
into it right, you would feel it flex. And it's that one's big and expensive, but we had these kind of off the shelf ones that we would be able to use, and we would be able to put that on these guys pretty early, get them out of their boot,
Yeah.
and it also reinforced them like I've got something protecting me back there. But you can only walk in that thing right if you would like roll heel toe and you feel that thing flex. So it starts to pre-simulate it. And then we wanted them off of it really quick because we didn't want them to just,
Yeah.
become dependent on it. But I always thought that would have been a cool study to look at. Would
Would
that
be.
help people load that tendon a little better?
Yeah.
I do that instead of a boot or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you can get like, they call them like blue rockers, and some of these Autobach ones, they're pretty similar. They're just kind of a simulated Achilles power, kind of more for a stroke patient, but it is maybe a cool way to start gait training.
Yeah, that'd be
Because we would hate for you to have to buy parallel bars and mess up that awesome gym, Laura.
I don't have parallel bars.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying you would
Let's try
have
to keep it that
to.
way.
Yeah, we want you to keep it that way.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
The fake staircase, that goes into the wall with 3 steps.
Oh, but I have a stair mill.
Oh yeah, that's good. I hate
Oh,
that
really?
thing. I hate it.
Oh, it's lovely.
Well, this is a BFR centric podcast, so I think we need to go a little bit down the BFR wormhole here. So, Kyle, I did kind of pull up a bunch of paper piles of thoughts on this. So, first off, is there potential adaptation at the tendon? It looks like the best work right now is coming from Germany, Chris Sentner's lab, who has shown in the Achilles, 2 papers now, that there is adaptation, not only in the muscle, but at the tendon. And he compared that to lift and heavy in this study. And so 30% 1RM with BFR versus 80%, I think it was 80% lift and heavy calf raises for 14 weeks. New paper, they did an MRI this time rather than ultrasound because they wanted to see the entire length of the tendon changes that could have happened there. And they saw a 5% increase in tendon size in both groups at the end of the intervention. Both were significant increases. Both also significantly increased their calf strength. His hypothesis was primarily the hypoxia and increased stem cell turning into tenocyte. You get more collagen synthesis, and that could be where they were seeing the hypertrophic changes at the Achilles. So if you are in some pretty good hypoxia, it does get a progenitor cell or stem cell release, and those cells can differentiate, and they can be kind of whatever sort of cells they might want to be or need to be, and they go to where the stress was, and so they ended up becoming tendon cells. We probably need a biopsy study similar to Jacob Nielsen's muscle study to show that that truly happened, but that's the hypothesis. The just to look at where things are right now, probably the biggest survey of surgeons that's been out there, 250, I think, surgeons on their BFR referral patterns. 31% are referring right now for Achilles tendon repairs. So that's a pretty high number. The knee was the largest by far. ACL was the number one, but 31% right now are referring out for that. The first case series that was done by myself at the Department of Defense because no one had looked at the Achilles or Achilles repairs. Don't read that paper. It's terrible. I reread it. We use isokinetic dynamometry, Laura, and again, how invalid it is. But we did look at other things, some ability to cap.
Did you do your stair ascension test? That's always your power one.
We didn't in this one. It was a very small one. It was, again, trying to get out. I mean, I think this was like 2016. Get out to the world that this is something that maybe could be used for this. It was in the Journal of Foot and Ankle Surgery, so it was primarily geared towards orthopedic surgeons.
And it was non-op, right?
They were chronic non-responders.
Oh,
so it was like 6 months out, 8 months out types. So yeah, at that time, our foot and ankle guys were too nervous to start early, so they would only give the non-responders. But we hadn't been doing it on the clinical population for only for a couple of years there, and it was primarily trauma. Yeah. But now we do have Dr. Dracos's trial at HSS. This was a randomized controlled trial. He presented at the Foot and Ankle Society, but I don't think it's published yet, right?
No, I haven't been able to find it.
You can find it on I forgot which journal it is. It's one of the orthopedic journal. Oh, it's the American Foot and Ankle Society journal. They have the abstract on there if you look for it. But it was also all during COVID when this stuff was happening. So I don't know if that changed it. Anyways, 43 subjects. They either did kind of standard of care or they did the standard of care plus BFR for when they were doing their calf exercises. And they did it, and that's hard. When we presented together, he said when they started, I think they started fairly early, like 2-3 weeks out, because of speed bridges on all these. And at 3 months for absolute peak torque and power, the BFR group was significantly better than the control group. So that's the only RCT we have out there right now as well. And then the last thing, which I thought was interesting, I'll share this one with you guys. A paper looked at tendon healing and VEGF and what do you need or not need. And basically their conclusion was VEGF is essential in the early phases of tendon healing and not good in the late phases of tendon healing. So the first 4 to 6 weeks is kind of VEGF needs to be on board and has to be there. And the more, maybe the better. So this paper was looking at pharmacological VEGF and that they maybe will start giving it for that first 4 to 6 weeks and then doing an anti-VEGF drug in the later phases there. So you don't start to get this ingrowth of angiogenesis into the tendon as it's kind of going through its late stage remodeling, which I thought was interesting. Well, it works though, because if you're doing BFR, you're going to get this big VEGF response, and you're probably going to be doing that first 4 to 6 weeks post-op type of thing. So
and it's probably different than getting it exogenously.
That's 100% too. Yeah, we don't know, because then they go lift heavy and they're going to get a VEGF response.
Yeah.
So, but if you're giving them an anti-VEGF, which I don't even know how that works, but just an interesting thing on the VEGF piece. And so I think from a BFR perspective, tip of the spear type things right now that we're seeing is starting at kind of an IPC setting in the very early phases, those first few weeks, if everyone's cool with that. Once they start plantar flexing, then move into BFR plantar flexing gently after that the first couple of weeks if everyone's cool with it. From there, then just continue to progress your plantar flexion with BFR and start doing more thigh exercises, and then wean off. At week 4, the Arthrex protocol says start cycling, just avoid forced dorsiflexion. So you could also start BFR cycling at that point. And then if you're doing like Laura and badass, test, retest and start seeing their force output, start getting them off the BFR and onto the lifting heavy.
Yeah, we started 100% occlusion right at 2 weeks. I
Yeah.
hadn't done that before, so we did full occlusion. Thanks, Kyle. Full occlusion with the seated isometrics and active plantar flexion. Also, we did some BFR cycling, so just pushing through the heels. So I'd have her just push on the heels with the
That's good.
80% occlusion.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show, and he's sitting there doing his interview, and you can hear his Delphi keeps going on and off because he's doing his IPC while he was on Pat McAfee. I think it was at Heather's place during that. Yeah. So same thing, started IPC in that very early phase, and then 100% same protocol. Keep BFR for low load, maybe start the bike with it, and then maybe hopefully at 6 to 8 weeks you can already wean them off. And
this person had her own set of BFR cups because I had rehabbed her son's ACL, and so she had her own occlusion cuffs. So it was nice. The nice thing about this case was we could be very specific and very just very specific with the calf because she had a coach, and so I let him handle everything else, for CrossFit, and we would just communicate on what she could start doing. But in the clinic, we could be very specific with what needs BFR, what does not, what's the occlusion, blah, 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 and what are you going to do at home? Because she was doing something every day. And that might explain her good outcomes too.
Yes. Absolutely. Now I'm in this new recovery and performance wormhole, and I think how the IPC prior to doing resistance training, some of those papers we were going over the other day, where you get this big old vaso. So if you do IPC, Laura, you get a really big vasodilation response. Bradykinin goes up, adenosine goes up, NO goes up, and that vasodilation, when you have the same subjects do kind of heavy strengthening exercises with or without doing IPC, the IPC side, not only they see more blood volume, but they saw that they could put more force output, and just total volume was bigger. So that could be, if you wanted to kind of maybe do that as well, IPC, and then have them start doing moderate to heavy lifts without the BFR, and maybe they're eking out a little bit more force output, and that vasodilation will last for a while. That probably is still a good thing for tendon healing. So I think that's also kind of a different way to skin that cat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Other than that, man.
Agreed.
Any last or parties? Well, you know what? One more thing, Kyle. Did you see that case series that came out yesterday? Or Laura? I don't know. You probably don't. You're not a BFR nerd that sits there and looks at it all day. You have shit to do. You have shit to do.
I don't want to I just ask Kyle.
Yeah, that's good. And if you want a real answer, you could ask me or Ben or Zach.
Ouch.
Tori, Jen.
Oh, man.
It was a case series anyway.
Shots fired. Editing that out. Cut, edit it out.
It was done over in Denmark. They did have an adverse event. I think maybe 2 of clots.
3 adverse events, it says.
Well, but 2 were re-ruptures.
2 re-ruptures. Yeah. Okay.
And 1 clot.
And one DVT.
So the re-ruptures were kind of like your gentleman, Laura. They just did it off they were off doing something and had a re-rupture. The DVT, but I think you can't say or blame this, but their protocol, and they were also using kind of like a little pump up thing. It's not auto-regulating, it's not holding pressure great, but they started at 30% limb occlusion pressure with these individuals for like 4 weeks or something like that. So what that does is cause venous congestion. So that's a surgical no-no. because if you are blocking the vein off, and you're letting 100% arterial flow in, you're basically just getting a congestion of blood in the veins. And so I would say another reason where you don't want a super low LOP potentially, but they did get a clot in that population. They did that 30% LOP. So
I wonder why they chose that. That's an odd. I mean, it's just an
Yeah,
odd
it
number
really-
to choose.
it
I
was
don't think I've
really
ever seen
weird.
anybody choose that in a paper. Yeah,
it was like they did 30% LOP, and then when they were done with their BFR, they would lay on their back and cycle with their legs in the air to try and get the blood out. I mean, it
What?
was all kind of wacky. So take this study with a grain of salt. But
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
I don't have a
study.
Delphi, but I just will remeasure limb occlusion pressure with a Doppler every month, especially when they're doing it at home. You know,
Yeah,
it's
for
like
sure.
they've
Yeah,
got
things
their
change.
contraindications, and this is I'll even like calculate it for them. This is 80% LOP. This is 60% LOP. So when they're following through their exercises, they know what to pump it up to. But I fortunately not just sending them loose and pump it all the way up.
Go for
There you go.
7.
Yeah. Or in that case, not pump it up enough, because that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool, man. This is good stuff. Any parting shots, Laura? Words of wisdom you can give us?
Oh man. No, I can't.
Where can we find you? How do we get in touch with you?
How do we, yeah.
Gotta do the standard.
Oh, gosh.
Laura loves Twitter. Loves it.
No, I used
She
to.
seems pretty active
Yeah, I
on
know.
it.
She used to love it. She's changed her mind recently.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean that's probably a good place to start. If you want a quicker response, I would probably just email me at laura@buildphysio.com. Probably get more of our messages through Instagram. I'm getting better about Twitter, starting to reemerge on that platform, or X, or whatever you call it. But
I
either
just call it Twitter.
email, Instagram, X, you can find
Cool.
me.
Build
Well-
on the on Instagram. It's Build Physio.
Oh yeah,
Just
shoot.
straight
Probably didn't
at
know that
Build
now,
Physio.
right? Yeah, there's build.physio, or my personal / professional one is the khaki free PT.
That's right.
Mhm.
The khaki free PT, because Laura hates khakis.
I hate khakis.
She hates the State Farm guy.
No Ted Lasso for you.
Worst nightmare. Don't like arms.
I don't wear them either. I got big legs and they make me look like a husky boy. So I don't wear them.
Tough skins.
Unless they have pleats, then I'm all about them.
Uh,
No, joking. All right, guys. Well, this was awesome. Laura, thank you so much. Hopefully I can get out there.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime there's a course in Bozeman College, like I'm going, I'm there. So I need to get out there and not this loser who can't handle the cold. I can handle it. And I'm not a fruit picker. I'm not a bunny hugger. Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you guys.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks for listening to the Owens Recovery Science Podcast. Owens Recovery Science is a single source for PTs, OTs, ATCs, DCs, MDs, and other medical professionals seeking certification in personalized blood flow restriction rehabilitation training. Find them online at owensrecoveryscience.com.
One last thing before we get out of here. First, want to say a sincere thank you for listening all the way through, but also wanted to remind you that this podcast should not be considered medical advice. It is strictly entertainment. It's a way for us to try to keep up with what is ongoing within the BFR world. If you require some sort of medical attention, medical advice, please seek that from a licensed individual within your state. Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon.